Welcome everyone to today's CSIA's Partner Webinar Series. My name is Violeta Saremo, and I will be your host today. For those of you who are unfamiliar with CSIA, we are a global nonprofit professional association with over 500 member companies in 40 countries. Our mission is to advance the practice of control system integration to benefit our members and their clients. Our vision is to ensure that manufacturing and process industries everywhere have access to low-risk, safe, and successful application of automation technology. CSIA membership offers members access to resources needed to attain and exceed business goals. To highlight just a few of our many member benefits, the CSIA Best Practices Manual guides control system integration companies in the setup and running of a solid company. CSIA's Business Insurance Program offers members an excellent insurance program for business owners, subcontractors, and more. The program includes members from all over the world enjoying the peace of mind that comes with CSIA insurance. Clients in all industries are now seeking integrators with CSIA certification alongside ISO. They recognize CSIA certified integrators' commitment to industry standards and business acumen. As a result, being certified can shorten the sales cycle. CSIA Industrial Automation Exchange is the premier automation guide featuring system integrators and suppliers who provide industrial manufacturing and process automation solutions. For integrators and suppliers, it's a place to market their expertise. Clients will find white papers, case studies, capabilities, contact information, and engage in conversation directly with CSIA members. Please follow CSIA's online event calendar for all upcoming webinars, including both partner webinars and business webinars. CSIA's business webinars feature topics handpicked by CSIA leadership to help you run your business. CSIA's partner webinars are opportunities given to CSIA's industry partner to address hot topics and demonstrate their expertise. You won't want to miss these opportunities to learn from the comfort of your own office or home. For more information about CSIA, please visit our website or contact us at info@staff.controlsys.org or 847-686-2245. And at this time, I would like to introduce our presenter, Joseph LaRussa. Joe LaRussa, PE, is an automotive industry veteran with diversified experience in manufacturing, product development, and project management. He currently serves as Director of Industrial Engineering for the Interior Business Division at Brose, an automotive mechatronics solutions provider. At Brose, Joe leads a regional team responsible for process planning and development, capital equipment procurement, and launch management in North America for Brose's seat structure products. In addition to his PE license, Joe holds a bachelor's in electrical engineering, a master's in automotive systems engineering, and a master's in engineering management, all from the University of Michigan, Dearborn. Joe is an amateur musician and currently serves in elected office as a city council member in Farmington, Michigan, where he is also the sitting mayor pro tempore. I'll turn it over to our distinguished presenter, and welcome, Joseph.
Thanks, Violeta, and thank you all for attending today's webinar. I'm looking forward to presenting a topic that I enjoy speaking about very much, which is regarding the skills and people aspects of the digital transformation. A lot of us like to talk about the technology and the platforms and the softwares and a lot of the apps and things that are available out there, but really, in addition to the digital transformation that's happening in the shop floor, we also need to give heed to the skills that are required from our people to not only implement these systems, but maintain them and improve them. Because in a lot of these manufacturing environments, we're talking about places that have equipment that is going to have to live for a very long time. And how do you future-proof that? And how do you future-proof the skills that are going to be required from your people? So I'll dive right in. Like I said, most of the time in these presentations, we talk about the different systems, the different platforms, the different softwares, the different aspects of your environment from an IT perspective. But I'm here to tell you we're not going to talk about any of that today. So if anybody has questions about ERP or PLM or PDM or MES or MOM or any of these topics, that's a different webinar for a different day. What I want to talk about today is the people side of it, because as someone who leads a team of people, I can tell you that I have really good experience with nuts and bolts knowledge, especially with our integrator partners. A lot of people know a lot of things about the mechanical and electrical aspects, but when it comes to the bits and bytes, this is where we tend to struggle. I mean, controls topics tend to dominate our open issues meetings, our ramp up schedules, and a lot of other discussions that we're having amongst ourselves revolve around control systems and how we can equip ourselves with the right skills to tackle those topics before they occur. So getting into the value levers of the digital transformation, and I want to do a little bit of an engagement activity here and try to make this a little bit more engaging for those of you who are watching. You know, I've got 4 items on here that dominate the surveys and research out there about why people are pursuing a digital transformation in their shop. So a lot of survey respondents that have replied to many industry surveys say that operationally, we want to improve our mean time between failure and mean time to repair. We want more predictive maintenance. We want to see more data coming out of the machinery that tells us when it's time to fix something before it breaks. Operational transparency is another topic, making the shop floor more visible to those who are either not able to get there or remotely located. You'll see applications like this for infrastructure style. So civil engineering projects like dams and windmills and things like this. A lot of the old school monitoring used to be done in roustabouts, right? You get in a truck and run around and take readings and come back. So a lot of this operational transparency can now be done remotely with these digital systems. Productivity improvement is another huge benefit, and as you can see, it kind of one of the larger categories of response feedback that are among the industry participants. So how do we get faster feedback from our shop floor? How do we get out of flip charts, whiteboards, manual data aggregation? How do we get more dashboarding? How do we get more information, more contextualization of the information that we're getting from the shop floor so that we can make decisions? And then efficiency gains, I mean, this kind of speaks for itself. How do we get faster from delivery of our systems to ramp up? How do we get better productivity from the people who are running the machinery by having a better man-machine system via the HMI or via cyber-physical systems? So just as a quick engagement activity, kind of a test drive, I'd like to get a show of hands from people whose primary driver in their organization is to improve mean time between failure and mean time to repair, these operational metrics. For those of you on the journey for the digital transformation, how many of you, by show of hands in Zoom, you can use your raise hand function, how many of you are on this quest because you want to improve mean time between failure or mean time to repair or some other operational metric, a hard savings? Violetta, can you help me and maybe give me a quick count of the hands you see raised?
Sure. So far, I don't see any hands. Yeah, nope.
I see one on my side.
Okay. I don't have that. I don't see, I have that visual.
Okay. All right. Next, operational transparency. How many of you are on this digital journey because you're trying to get more operational transparency, whether that's through traceability systems, or you're just trying to get more geographic information from other locations to compare? You know, well, why in this plant do we have the same solution and it seems to be better than this other location? Let's see, 1, 2. Okay. Oh, okay. So a few hands going up for that one. All right, productivity improvement. How many of you are on this quest with a productivity business case in mind? How do we get more out of our assets by creating more contextualized data and information so that we can make operational decision making more streamlined? We can come back with, you know, better throughput, higher efficiency, more with the same, and extracting more ROI from your assets. How many of you are on this quest for that productivity improvement? All right. This one seems to be a hotter. All right. Yep, this one looks to be one of the hotter ones. Give it one more second here. Awesome. So finally then, efficiency gains. How many of you are interested in getting to ramp up faster and having higher human-machine performance? How many of you are on this digital transformation journey because of the promise of shorter design to delivery cycles, or faster ramp ups, or more projects that you can take on because you're not in the quagmire of launching a system in your facility? All right, got a couple hands here. This is getting more response than perhaps operations and transparency, but not quite as much as productivity improvement. All right, well, thank you all for taking that practice run. I think this really helps me tailor the presentation more toward the audience that we actually have here on the webinar. For those of you who might be reviewing this on a recording, maybe this is some incentive for you to join live next time to help kind of steer the narrative a little bit. I find it always a good idea to try to seek some feedback from the audience and maybe help tailor the content a little bit to the issues that you see, or the highest value topics that are driving your decision making with regards to the digital transformation. So, having talked about these levers a little bit, let's talk about the problems or challenges that we're facing, that I believe all of us are facing as we pursue the digital transformation. And again, my perspective is going to be more on the skill and people side, but I do want to acknowledge that infrastructure is something that is absolutely a foundational minimum that has to be addressed for the digital transformation. Whether it's security, your bandwidth, your latency, hosted versus, edge versus cloud, all of these topics are important. And for some of you, it's an affordability constraint. Perhaps you can't necessarily afford to have a closed system totally on site, have something that you control, which of course will give you the highest security, but it's also the highest cost and requires you to have the highest skill in your own house. Financially, again, is that ROI there? Is it really worth it? And for those of you who were going for the operational business cases of, predictive maintenance and operational benefits, these are topics that in general, you can harvest enough benefit to get an ROI for a cloud-based implementation. But in my experience and what I've seen in other industries, that operational business case by itself is really not enough to go all in whole hog. So for those of you that raise your hands for that one, I would say, examine where the productivity is in your organization and try to figure out, because many IT implementations revolve around productivity increases for your people. And, in every major revolution in information technology that came, whether it's computer-aided design or shop floor technology or, heck, even email, all those revolutions involved a productivity-driven business case. So for those of you that said it's primarily operational, that's a good first step, but I would encourage you to also look at these, the more traditional IT-based business case of productivity. Trust, this is a big one. This is also a people topic. Not sure if many of you have had this experience, but I've been in plenty of meetings where the first, I'll say 40% of the meeting is debating who has the spreadsheet with the right information on it. Having a trusted source for data in the organization is still a very, very hot topic. It's a big hot potato in a lot of meetings. And so having a trusted data source that everyone can draw from really streamlines a lot of the decision making. But it's still a pervasive issue for those that are transitioning away from manual data collection and aggregation and analysis to a more of a dashboarding or a more elegant solution by extracting data directly from the shop floor and presenting that for analysis. Mindset is the other side of it, where I'm going to spend some time. You already kind of heard me allude to this, nuts and bolts people versus bits and bytes people, and we really need both. We have to get a skill set, a combined skill set among our people. And I'll dive into that a little bit more in a couple of slides here about what that looks like, but really transitioning from nuts and bolts and understanding the threaded fastener and how things go together and wiring and all the traditional things that go into making a machine or a manufacturing system, and getting more into systems integration topics and being able to ask the right questions. And I'll dive into that a little bit more here on these next couple of slides. So diving into that mindset, anticipating the problems that we just talked about. So from a training perspective, and me as an end user of systems integrator, system integration products, I'm going out to the market and seeking system integrators that can provide me a solution. From a training perspective, I don't need my people to be coders. They don't need to understand how to code a machine, but they need to be able to understand architecture and software development. And one example of this is, think about the last design review you had with your customer or with your system integrator. How much time did you allocate for mechanical design review, electrical design review, and then how much time did you dedicate to control system architecture review? How many people were in the room for the fixture design, the datum structure for your fixture? How am I doing my work holding? How am I handling my automation system, my motion control? How many people were in the room for that review versus how many people are in the room for the control systems review, where we talk about the software architecture, the programming approach, how we're going to do fail-safe or cyber physical systems modeling, what simulation are we doing to make sure that the software is ready to go. In my experience and what I've noticed, those reviews tend to be heavily biased toward electrical and mechanical systems. And perhaps if those of you who have some experiences, throw those in the chat. I think that that's always helpful for us to understand where people are coming from. If you're a systems integrator, is that a point of frustration that your customer spends more time thinking about how many threads on the screws are going to be engaged to hold the thing together, or how many dowel pins or pilot holes or whatever for changeovers, or versus how much time we spend on the architecture of the software? Especially when you find out late in the game that you've got to do some application development because the customer's environment, they didn't really understand their own environment well enough to articulate to you what you had to do from a software perspective. And this moves me to the next point, systematization. Does your client, or do you as the system integrator, understand your customer's environment enough to identify major stoppers up front? One example of this would look like, we had a quality control system in one project where we said we had to put parts on hold because we do a lot of metal bashing, metal bending at Rosa, we weld, we do a lot of traditional manufacturing, particularly on our seat structures. And there are quality verifications we have to do on the welded joints. Those quality systems typically require us to hold material for a certain amount of time. Some of our digital transformation has been around traceability systems and our ability to track that material through our value streams. What we learned is that the traceability system would allow us to put our blocking point anywhere in the value stream that we wanted. However, this required an application development project because the quality system in the lab, in our architecture, in our environment, the quality system in the lab did not have a direct connection to the shop floor PLCs, and those did not have a direct connection, or excuse me, the quality system also had a direct connection to our ERP system, but those three were not interconnected in a way where we could put the blocker where we want in the shop and translate that information back to the quality system and the ERP simultaneously. So this required an application development exercise that we didn't anticipate. And this is something that in an architecture review up front, we would have been able to uncover that, and we would have been able to dedicate resources to it up front instead of in a reactionary mode at the end. So system integrators, how can you pull that out of your customer? And end users, how can you include that in your requirements, your scope of work for your system integrator, so that they understand what you need them to do? One simple thing that we've done, in my experience, that I've seen other companies do as well, is saying specifically to our system integrator, you are responsible for integration of the control system to our MES. We will provide you with all of the information you need to do that. We will pull the IP addresses. We will do a lot of that work internally for you and enable that. But we are not programmers, we are not MES system integrators, so let's talk about including that in the scope of work up front. And that's an easy value add for you system integrators out there. How can you take some of that off your customer's plate? Can you get the MES integration done, for them and offer that as a value added service? And that brings me to my third point, the business acumen. Do your people know how to identify, system integrators, do your people know how to identify and extract value for your customer and turn that into an opportunity for you to market to them? Like I said, adding that service of doing the MES integration, if you understand your customer's environment well enough and you've done enough integration projects for them, is this a service you can offer? How can you analyze and extract those opportunities for yourself and provide value, increased value to your customer? So these are some of the solutions to the problems of mindset and what skills are required among our system integrators, and how do you push some of that back into your customers and force them to think about what skills do they need to be able to effectively communicate to you when they need a system built. So what do these skills look like? So this is the only knowledge, skill, and ability matrix I've been able to find so far for Industry 4.0, and it's all in German. So even though it's all in German, you can probably pick out some things here. You can kind of see what the competencies are. We need data and IT competency. There's some social competencies regarding communication, disciplinary systems, and then personal competencies, as well as facilities competencies or more traditional manufacturing technology competence. Now, this is a very long list, and my skepticism is very high that you're going to find a resource in the market that has all of this. So how do we take something like this and say, well, here's the laundry list of things. If I could design the perfect person with all of the skills and abilities that I need them to have for Industry 4.0, this is what it would be. Well, now comes the prioritization, right? Because there's a very low likelihood we're going to find all of this. So how do we organize this into a more structured competency model? So here is the current manufacturing competency model. You can find this at manufacturingusa.com. So this is a very, this competency model was developed with several associations and the Department of Labor here in the United States. This is published online, and there were other subdomain competency models within manufacturing that also take this stackable approach. So the one thing is we build skills on top of each other, and then we get to a narrower focus the higher up in this pyramid that we go. So at the very bottom of the pyramid, we have to have personal effectiveness competency, right? You have to have interpersonal skills, professionalism. These are the things that people show up on time. They can communicate in writing. They can communicate in spoken word. These are fundamental personal effectiveness competencies. So this is more your shop floor, your hourly people. You need people to show up on time, be diligent, have good work ethic, right? This is in the shop floor. From an academic competency standpoint, this is on top of personal effectiveness. Now we get into basic computer skills. This is one of the only places that you see in the skills pyramid where computer skills or IT proficiency show up. But this is not what you think in terms of shop floor IT. This is, can we use spreadsheets? Can we use word processing applications? Can we do simple web navigation? So these are, when I say basic computer skills, that means basic. Workplace competencies, so these are more general for all manufacturing or all workplaces, regardless of whether they're manufacturing or something else. Industry-wide, this is where we start to get into some specialization. The industry-wide technical competencies that we need to have in manufacturing are manufacturing process design and development, production systems, maintenance, supply chain. So these are still, now we're kind of narrowing. And then industry sector, this is where you would find another pyramid for your industry sector. So industry-wide, whether I'm doing medical device manufacturing, food, automotive, aerospace, defense, I need to have these competencies regardless. But then in my industry sector, what are the technical competencies I need to have for automotive versus medical device? Medical device deals with micro manufacturing, a lot of small, intricate, highly detailed, highly tolerant chemicals. There's a lot of specificity in that industry vertical. Whereas automotive, we deal with higher volume, we deal with larger process systems, we deal with bigger things, right? Cars are way bigger than perhaps medical devices that are implanted into the human body. So we're dealing with a scale difference and a volume difference in that case, and that requires different competencies in manufacturing, process design, and development between those two industry verticals. So I encourage you, go look into these competency models for your industry. But the reason I put this pyramid here for this presentation is that regardless of which competency model you pull, they currently focus still on manufacturing science, the transformation of raw material into finished goods, and general workplace skills and abilities. Advanced IT skills are not in these pyramids. So my call to action for you and for CSIA and other industry associations is, how do we merge these competency models between IT and OT, right? Operational technology and information technology, because this skill pyramid here is focused on how do I create a good manufacturing engineer, manufacturing technician, shop floor operator, maintenance tech. And on the Industry 4.0 side, there's a lot of IT competency from applications development, network systems integration, some of these software architecture, but there's really not a convergence of those two fields of interest. So a good first step, and my recommendation would be, is that CSIA as a convener could convene a task force or a group to map the manufacturing technology domains to IT domains in order for us to come up with a revised competency model for manufacturing in the Industry 4.0 era. How do we map welding competencies, for example, with IT competencies for digital transformation, process monitoring, traceability systems? These are things that have nothing to do with the value-added operation of welding metal or welding anything together, but those IT competencies are absolutely required for me to specify a machine that not only welds, but monitors that welding process, generates data, transfers that data to an application layer or to an HMI, and gives me real-time information that I can act on in my operation. The evolution of these systems, and this is another engagement opportunity, I'll go through these pretty quickly, and then I want to take another snap poll. I've got some recommendations here about what are the competencies that we need to include in any new model that combines IT and OT. So to me, MES and MOM, absolutely. Programming skills, and I've got some examples here, Visual Basic, CNC, and PLC, but programming skills, generally speaking, I firmly believe that my manufacturing techs and my engineers need to have more bits and bytes in their toolkit and add on to their nuts and bolts knowledge. Network technologies, application development, ERP integration. This is really a big one. Convergence of these traditional segments. I think many of you who are end users might already agree. We're seeing a convergence of skills already in the manufacturing and industrial engineering skill set. Like, for example, my team members, they not only have to have good industrial engineering skills, time studies, layout, value stream mapping, all of those skills that are in the traditional industrial engineering domain, but they also need to have a healthy dose of manufacturing science, how to transform raw material into finished goods. So that convergence is already underway, the combined industrial manufacturing skill set. And now this IT architecture is coming in as kind of like a third leg of the stool. So the unicorn resource in the future, I believe, is going to be one who can combine, a person who can come in and bring a combination of skills in manufacturing technology, industrial engineering, and IT architecture or computer science at a minimum. And then, my final statement on the matter would be the credentials that are currently out there, I think, leave a gap in the market. Perhaps if anybody is aware of a credential, as a hiring manager, I'm very interested in seeing what's out there. So if you know of a credential that certifies manufacturing people with computer science chops, or vice versa, certifies computer science people with manufacturing chops, I'd be very interested in any of those credentials. If you could put them in the chat, in the comments window, that'd be great. But let's do another quick poll here. Among the people who are listening live here, how many of you agree that MES and MOM need to be, by show of hands, need to be in a future competency model? You know, maybe this is just an automotive thing. Maybe I'm only looking at it from one perspective. But for those of you that are in the industry, or for those of you who are systems integrators that are getting pulled in this direction by your customers, does MES and MOM play into a lot of your shortfalls in your ramp ups or your implementations? How many of you see that as something that needs to be included by show of hands in the future competency model? Okay, see if you go up. And if you have comments about why, or if you disagree, I mean, also put those in the comments, put those in the chat. This would give us good discussion amongst the participants, but also give me and CSIA some reference material to say, wow, you know, this is really the sentiment out there among these folks. What about programming skills? How many of you, by show of hands, think that programming skills need to be part of a future competency model for Industry 4.0 or the digital transformation? Okay, a couple going up. Okay. We're gonna make it more than the other one. Let's see. All right, good. Yeah, it looks like programming skills is a big one for everybody. What about network technologies? Do you feel that network technology information also needs to be in this competency model? Or is that something that needs to stay purely in the IT domain? Do you feel like networking needs to be part of the skill of the future shop floor, or can that remain in the IT kind of universe? Some hands going up on this one as well, but it looks like fewer. What about application development? Do you want your manufacturing people doing app development? Do you think that your future employees are need access to a data lake and can design apps on the fly? Or do you feel also that this is something that, you know, is more in IT's bucket? And this is an interesting conversation because, you know, individual facilities have different needs. And at the plant level, I see a little bit more of this application development push, where the plants want to take the existing data lake, cultivate an app that helps them address their specific needs. And then those apps are kind of on this organic life cycle where they come to be and they serve a purpose, and then they die a natural death when they're no longer required. So this kind of quick in and out, the apps are developed as we go, and then we decommission them as we solve problems. So this is always an interesting topic for me. And then ERP integration. How many of you feel that, you know, your people need to know in the future about how their cyber physical systems have to integrate to ERP and have a more combined understanding of how their manufacturing systems are impacted by ERP integration topics like ordering, EDI, online ordering, these types of things? Okay. You on that one. That's good. All right. Well, thank you all for participating in that little poll. It sounds like the winner here was definitely programming skills, and then MES, MOM. Those seem to be the high hitters among this group. For those of you watching on the recording, you know, leave comments, send an email, post it on social media. Let's keep the conversation going, because that's part of the thing about identifying and creating these competency models. Is this needs to be a collaborative effort. We need a broad swath of feedback in order to make this usable. And like I presented previously, you know, these models could start to vary when we get into different industry sectors, or when we get into to different subcategories within an industry sector, you know, by technology domain. So just a note on user experience. This is I like to kind of, you know, get on a lighter note. For those of you who are in this space and doing application development, either as a system integrator or as an end user, you know, mobile is the future, and mobile devices are becoming more and more powerful. So are you in a mobile first mode, or are you still in industrial PC, desktop, laptop? You know, are we still tailoring for that you know, I don't really know. I'd be curious what other experiences have been. I'm a little skeptical personally that we can ever take true controls tools to a fully mobile format, not without a lot more development of haptics and HMI. I still feel like it's better suited to a hardware platform that's more powerful than a mobile device in terms of haptics and HMI. Do your apps serve up the right information and enough of it to make a decision? And that's my graphic over here. You know, I hope I got a chuckle out of some of you when I put a Tinder screenshot up here, but think about it. Apps like Tinder give you just enough information to make a decision and to take an action, left or right. Do your apps from the shop floor, do your dashboards serve up enough information and the right information to actually get a decision, an actionable outcome? Or is it, here's a big display and, you know, we feel good having 50 widgets telling us what's going on the shop floor, but none of this really helps me decide what to do next or how to prioritize the work in the shop. So I'd be curious, for those of you that may have comments about that, I get the sense that the dashboards are kind of developed in a way that to make it feel like there's this ton of information available, but I don't really feel like I can swipe left or swipe right and make a decision on the shop floor about do this next or do that next. Data integrity, do your applications integrate into the environment? Are they platform agnostic? I see a lot of, especially medium and small manufacturers, they kind of get swept up in the ocean of applications and kind of the modularity that exists. You know, can we really bolt these things together and create a system that works for my shop? So I would encourage system integrators, you know, your apps, your solutions need to be platform agnostic so that you can have the highest potential of getting those apps into the market. And I would also encourage end users, be clear about what you need those apps to do, because as there is with a manufacturing solution or a control system solution, there's multiple ways to win. And it's just important that you're able to articulate what you need in order for the system integrator to give you, you know, meet your requirements. That's really all I had for the webinar today. I think we're going to move into some Q&A, Violetta, right? If there's any Q&A from the audience, or if anybody has a specific question for me, you can find me using these channels that I've got here. I've got my email on here. I've got my LinkedIn, and you can follow me on Twitter. You know, I'm always happy to hear from people that attend these things, and I hope this got you thinking a little bit and maybe added some value for you in terms of where to go next, either if you're an SI or if you're an end user like I am.
Hi, Joe. Yes, thanks. I do have like a couple of questions that were sent into me. If anybody has questions and they would like to speak, they can raise their hand, and I actually am able to see them now, so we can let them speak that way, or they can also put it in the Q&A. So one of the questions that I got was, how do you identify people with the right skills?
That's a common question that I get a lot. What I would say is the onus really is on people like me who are the hiring managers. For those of you that may say, well, my HR colleagues should be working on that. I tend to take another point of view and say that the hiring manager needs to define it. So for me, what I look for is I look for strong manufacturing or industrial engineering core competency. And then I look for computer science as a second priority. So what could that look like? Person comes with a 4-year degree or a 2+2 in manufacturing technology, so an associate's plus 2 years of experience, or a bachelor's degree with a traditional mechanical or manufacturing engineering, but then did they do a computer science minor? Were they in a computer science club? Did they do robotics when they were doing their mechanical engineering? I look for these signs in their background that they've done some of this. Have they bought an integrated system before? Have they worked at an SI? So I really try to look for, among my newbies, my fresh college graduates, what did they do on top of their field of study to immerse themselves into this kind of software ocean? And then in the experience candidate pool, I look for an experience set that maybe exposes them to some of this, whether they've been in the shop floor and dealt with as a process responsible, or they've acquired and procured and launched an integrated system. So that's what I tend to look for in the resume. But really, because it's core, I need a good manufacturing / industrial engineering skill set. But then immediately after that, I look for that computer science aspect to try to round out the qualifications.
Thank you very much. And I do have another one that came in. Any recommendations for resources about competency models? Any resources aside from CSIA for that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, CSIA has their own certification products, so you absolutely should examine that body of knowledge and see how your people map to that, because CSIA integrators who are certified, this is the body of knowledge that they are cogent with, and as an end user, I need to understand what that is so that I can understand, number one, what am I getting from that integrator, but also are there gaps that I need to make sure I communicate about. But in addition, I would say, go to manufacturingusa.com, look at the competency models that are there. You can probably find one for your industry vertical. If not for the industry-wide one you can use, but definitely for your industry vertical or your subject domain, regardless of what it is, pharmaceuticals, aerospace and defense, you can probably find something. I would also recommend looking at other organizations like SME, ASME, so the Society of Manufacturing Engineers, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, all of them have touched on this, and they understand that the digital transformation is going to touch their members and it's going to impact their work. So regardless of what domain they've traditionally been in, I think everybody universally recognizes that the digital transformation is going to affect the skill set of the workforce, and they are all taking steps in their own traditional domain to address that. So I would definitely reach out to professional associations. I would go to manufacturingusa.com, review those competency models, and do some in-house research of your own. How well do you structure the competency, the KSAs, the knowledge, skill, and ability that you need from your people? Typically, if you look inside your own house, taking that first step of organizing what knowledge, skill, and ability you require from your people is a very eye-opening and enlightening exercise to go through. And it gives you a chance to engage with your HR colleagues and really define what those are. And then that helps them when they're recruiting for you.
Thank you very much. I do not see any raised hands or any more questions. So I just want to say thank you very much. And on behalf of CSIA, I would like to thank Joseph for this informative discussion. I'd also like to thank all of those attending, and we hope that you found this webinar informational. We'd also like to remind you that a recording of this webinar will be available for viewing. So please visit the CSIA website to view this recording or a past webinar you may have missed. This concludes our program for today. And once again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and have a good day.
Later, everybody.